Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big start, deep face, Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer.
Great morning, great morning. It's Monday morning. That means you're mic'd up. 10 a.m. with yours truly, Michael Clayton. It's been about a month of Mondays. Been very busy with work, with life, with serving. And now we're back live. So thank you all for tuning in. For those who are watching our show, fans of the show, I want to appreciate your support and love. Be ready to call us in at that number that's right there on your screen. I would tell it to you, but if I knew it by heart. 813-444-9588. DJ ANA is in the house, my support system, guiding us through today's show. Today's topics of discussion. We will be talking about the secrets of success. One thing that happened to me this past week is, for those who don't know, I own a roof cleaning business, and we clean roofs. We clean the exterior of your home, your driveways, pool decks, fences, and all of that stuff that mold and algae and dirt can grow on. And I do a lot of training with guys because in this business, I always got to have guys who are passionate about working, who know how to wake up early, all right, and work long days if things go wrong on the work site. So I'm always training guys to make sure that I have a crew that can execute the job at hand. And this past week, I was training some younger guys. And I got really frustrated at my younger guys simply because I come from the football world. I reached the pinnacle of success in college, winning a national championship. I reached the pinnacle of success being drafted into the first round. Reached the pinnacle of success winning a Super Bowl after an 8-year career with the New York Giants. And I knew what was required in order to be the best in the world. It's the mentality that I've had throughout my whole life. And I've applied those same lessons and characteristics that I've learned from football in my everyday life. And without a doubt, they've worked. Undoubtedly, they've worked. So today, after a long week of training young guys who I'm convinced that some people just don't know how to win in life. Some people just don't know how to have success. Maybe it's because you didn't have a male role model in your home to give you the example, the ins and outs of how to be successful on a work site or in a career. Maybe it's because you were raised in a single-family home and maybe mom had to go out and get the hustle on and you weren't able to see her be active and the things that was required for mother to go out and be successful to keep food on the table in a single-family household. You as a child or you as a young adult now didn't see what was required to be successful, and you missed the little lessons. So today, like I remind you, after a long week of work and training a lot of young guys, I was frustrated, and I'm convinced that young people these days just don't know what it takes to be successful. So today we're going to give you some nuggets, all right? These are the types of conversations that I can have all day, all right? And it's very interesting because a lot of what I'm saying, I call it secrets, but the truth of the matter is it's no secret. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about is common sense stuff. But we all know we live in a world where common sense ain't too common. And when you don't have people to learn from, it can be very difficult for you to learn these lessons, apply these lessons on a day-to-day basis, and kind of go through the journey of applying these lessons because these lessons work over time. They may not work overnight. But if you continue to apply these lessons, eventually a door is going to be open to you. And it's important that we have these conversations. I got two great guests joining me today, men who have just been a pillar in our community, have been the example of what it takes to own your own business, to work hard, to not be defined by the color of your skin, but to be defined, like the great Martin Luther King said, the contents of your character, all right, your work ethic, and how easy it is to reach success. I got a good friend of mine, Gary Hartfield, is joining me today. We'll be talking about a lot of these things. Also have a young brother who has been in the Tampa Bay area for a long time, Melvin Coleman, if he can make it over. I think he's going to be joining me today. He's the COO of INKWELL Productions. And in my time of hustling and, being an entrepreneur, I've come across a little acting. And I ran into Melvin, and I was just so thoroughly impressed with his setup and what he's done, him and his brother over at INKWELL Productions. So we'll be talking with him as well about the secrets of success. Right off the bat, I just made a list of things, of secrets. And my first thing on this list is, if you plan to fail, then you fail to plan. All right? This sounds so simple, but I feel like after last week and after training my young guys, I just felt that so many young people think they know it all. Okay? And what you have to understand is that in everything in life, I don't care if you're cleaning a bathroom, cleaning the toilet, washing the dishes, putting the dishes up, working a job, whatever you're doing, if you don't have a plan, then you're probably not executing in the best way possible. I'm not saying that you won't get the job done. What I'm saying is your chances of success go up tremendously when you execute, and when you have a plan of how you're going to execute your day. A lot of people write to-do lists. That's their rendition of a plan. They follow that to-do list. They stay on task all day. They create a to-do list for the next day. And those are A-type personality people. Those are the most organized people in the world. My wife is that type of person. I knew that I wasn't that type of person. So it was, opposites attract. My wife keeps me on task because she keeps track of everything. And I know by going through life, making a plan on everything can be a little bit worrisome. A lot of times you feel like you know everything, like you have the confidence. You've been doing it for so long and you just trust in your skills. I kind of relate it to like this. I played in the National Football League. We know how to play football. You put us on a team. I signed with the New York Football Giants on Tuesday. After 10 weeks, I signed on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I was their third receiver, had learned the playbook after 5 days, and I was ready to go because I was a professional, okay? Now, if I didn't study the playbook, now I know how to play the position. If I didn't study the playbook and understand the plays, a.k.a. the plan, I would just be out there running with like a chicken with my head cut off. It wouldn't make sense. So I had to learn the plays. I had to learn the plan so that I can execute and make money and win and have success. It's no different than on my work site. We clean roofs. We clean exterior homes. Now, anybody can go out and clean a roof in an exterior of a home. Anybody can do that. My crew can go out and they can clean the home. The problem is they can know how to clean a home and can clean it thoroughly. But the plan is to clean 4 homes a day. So if my crew doesn't have the plan of how we execute cleaning a house the most efficient way, so we cannot take 5 hours to clean a house, that we only need to take 1.5 hours to 2 hours to clean a house, we have to know the plan. And if you don't stick to the plan, maybe it'll turn out right, but it's probably not going to be the very best. So here's a note. When you plan to fail when you fail to plan. Also, another thing that I recognized this week is understanding the common workplace protocol, okay? I had a guy on my work site last week, and he's just talking to me, telling me how to do things. I'm like, son, I've been doing this for 8 years. I just started my second location in Tampa in November, so we've been up and operating for the past 4 months, okay? But I've been doing this for 8 years, and it's amazing to me how I have this 23-year-old young man who's telling me, Gary, how they are going to clean and how they are going to do things. And so I want you to understand this. As a boss and as a leader, it is my job to communicate and to do the talking, okay? But if you're not a boss and if you're not a leader, you have to understand when it is appropriate for you to talk. I'm not saying that you can't talk or you can't lead or you can't communicate. What I'm saying is there is a proper workplace etiquette on every single job that you're ever on, that you have to know when to talk. And the biggest lesson you can learn if you're not a leader or a boss, 3 L's. Listening, master this, listening, learning, and laboring. That's all you need to focus on if you're not a boss or a leader. Listening, learning, and laboring. Because if you get to talking and you're wrong, and 9 times out of 10, you probably are wrong if you're not a boss or a leader, that means you got steps to grow, then you probably are going to aggravate a person in charge. And I don't know your boss. Your boss can be equivalent to a male body part, preferably a male's body part. He could be a problem. She could be a problem. And you can aggravate that boss who has little patience. So it's best that you learn how to, I like to speak bluntly, keep your mouth shut. Listen, learn, and work your butt off. Labor. It's the main focus that a lot of young people, I've realized, don't get. Maybe you've never heard a grown man or grown woman tell you, listen, son, listen, lady, young lady, you need to learn how to keep your mouth shut. Maybe that sounds a little bit pessimistic. But the truth of the matter is, you need to learn how to quiet down, listen, learn, and labor when you are not a boss or a leader. And understand that there are proper times when you need to speak up. And learning when those proper times are just as important as keeping your mouth shut. Other simple things we'll get to. How much time we got left? We're about to go to our break. We're going to be talking about, hey, it's simple. Get to bed early. Wake up early. We've all heard this. You got to take care of your body. If you're going to be passionate about work and being an entrepreneur, you got to take care of the temple. You got to go to bed early so you can get up early. We've all heard the saying, the early bird gets the worm. Got a lot of worms out there. Who trying to eat? Write all your ideas down. And first and foremost, save it for the last. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. A lot of people want to get invested in. Invest in yourself. When we come back, we're talking about the secrets of success. I got Gary Hartfield joining me. Y'all stay tuned. You mic'd up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton.
Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big stock, deep face Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer, Buccaneer, Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm
Bring me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No, Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this!
You will rock this! To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. Cool. Very cool. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
Most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Great morning. Thank y'all for staying tuned in. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. And today's topic of discussion, we're calling it the secrets of success. Now, a lot of things that we'll be talking about are, you'll be surprised to know that these are not secrets at all. A lot of these things are just common sense. You know, good old-fashioned life lessons you learn and you apply. All right, but unfortunately, not too many people have learned these little secrets. So today we're going to do our very best to give them away. And I wanted to invite a very good friend of mine who is a serial entrepreneur, who has defied the stereotypes of being a black man in this world. And he's a mentor of mine, a great friend. And we'll be talking about some of the secrets that he's embodied in his life. I want y'all to all welcome in Mr. Gary Hartfield. Thank you, Gary, for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike, for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. So, Gary, let's get right into it, man. I was fortunate enough to be in an interview with you about the seed conversation.
Absolutely.
And it really hit home with a lot of people, got a lot of great feedback from those topics of discussion. You know, we'll talk about a little bit about that today, but off rip, I just want you to kind of introduce to the listeners the businesses that you're in and the things that you've helped create right here in Tampa Bay.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. So about 20 years ago, we were blessed to start Serenity Village, Inc. It is a healthcare organization. We work with the developmentally disabled and the elderly. That business was started with my sister, Tammy Hartfield. After its inception, about 12 hours after we closed on the first business, she passed away. Her legacy lives in what we do day to day. We have moved from that initial business with 1.5 employees and serving 8 residents to more than 180 clients and about 80 employees. So that gave us our foundation to do the healthcare business and develop the other businesses that we started. So indeed, we started with a plan. And subsequent to that, in 2012, we started a full-service insurance and financial services firm from scratch. $0 on the balance sheet.
Wow.
And we were able to grow that here in 2021 to serving over 2,000 clients between Georgia and Florida and more than $5.3 million in revenue.
Let me stop you right there. So we make cakes from scratch, cornbread from scratch.
Right.
Grandma's Sunday dinner got to be from scratch.
From scratch.
But starting a business
right.
from scratch is a lot of things that, you know, people are not familiar with.
Right.
Kind of talk about that process of what it took. We all know that it does take money
Absolutely.
to start every business, but it also takes people. It takes support.
Right.
Talk about those valuable things that you needed to start a business from scratch.
So one of the most important things to start a business from scratch, Mike, you touched on it this morning, and that's having a plan. So as we looked at the opportunity, we spent at least 2 years writing the business plan. We did the research, we did the reconnaissance, we went out to the various facilities that actually were doing the work that we wanted to do, and we wrote the business plan.
Wow.
So we did not go in half-cocked. We did not go in without resources to help make this successful. We indeed, as you mentioned this morning, we had a plan.
Yeah, and 2 years of research.
2 years of research, and that was part of the plan.
Absolutely.
Mike. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, when you start in the business, all right, there always are hiccups. There always are bumps in the road. Starting your first business, what was one of those major hurdles that you had to get over that could make or break this business, but something, and we all face these things, and I talk a lot about weathering the storm, overcoming adversity is one of the main attributes that you need to have when you start in a business. What was one of those things that got in your way that you say, hey, if I wouldn't have done this, got over this, we would have failed, but it was necessary to get through this adversity?
Absolutely. I think we see it time and time and time again that we are undercapitalized. When entrepreneurs of African-American descent are starting businesses, they go in and they have excellent ideas. Starting in the lawn care business, there were a number of individuals years ago, 20 or 30 years ago, that had phenomenal ideas, but they were serving their local community. They did not have the resources to scale it. So when their white counterparts were able to access capital, they were able to scale it and do things that our African-American entrepreneurs have not been able to do yet until this day, and it's 2021. So capital.
That's crazy. And, like, this isn't anything new. Like, this dates back 50, 60 years, because 50, 60 years ago, my family owned land in Carthage, Mississippi.
All right.
Okay? We own acreage, and we didn't have the same resources as the Evans family, who was a white family. Now, to this day, the Evans family owns probably about 8,000 acres, of land, because they were given the loans through the banks.
Right.
My grandfather was not given loans, so we only had 3 to 4 acres, which my family was able to capitalize and turn that into a few hundred acres. Okay. But it wasn't the thousands and thousands of acres.
Right.
Just 2 years ago, the government wrote my dad a $50,000 check. It was the Black Farmers, whatever that was, a Black Farmers Association, or it was a bill that was written that the government went back and tried to make right the loans that were declined from black people back in the day.
Wow.
And to think about it.
That's painful.
It's painful. Now, here we are out of nowhere, we get $50,000, but what is $50,000 when my family could be wealthy right now? $50,000 is not going to buy me 8,000 acres. You know?
By no stretch of the imagination.
By no stretch of the imagination. Right. So we have to, we have to come up with ideas and ways to work with what we got. Turn that 50,000, plant trees, turn it into a family business where we can eventually make it profitable. But we've been dealing with this not being properly funded for a very long time. What do you recommend for people who are in those situations, great ideas, starting a business, but are in dire need of funding?
My recommendation is this, and again, I go back to what you establish as the foundation for today's topic, and that's planning, having a game plan. So that being said, as you're doing the research and you're writing the business plan, there are organizations like that here, 5508. There's the Small Business Development Center. There's the SBA. There's the Black Black Business Investment Corporation with Brother Albert Lee that you can reach out to as you're writing that business plan and talk about resources to help capitalize this venture. In understanding what that looks like, because you're going to have to bring at least 10%, maybe 20% to the table. So if you're making $1 million overture, meaning you want to increase your debt equity by $1 million, then you got to bring at least $100,000 to the table, maybe $200,000.
Right.
So you need to know what that looks like. But again, it goes back to your point earlier, Mike, is that you got to plan.
Got a plan. We are the topic of discussion today is the secrets of success. I have two prominent business figures in our area here in Tampa sitting next to me. Melvin Coleman also. He's the COO of INKWELL Productions. They have done tremendous things and have done things that a lot of people may not know about because it's a very unique industry in creating content for movies and sitcoms and screenplays. And I just was excited to meet this brother a couple of years ago and just to see their facility and everything that they have going. Please, everybody, help me welcome Mr. Melvin Coleman.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me out, man. This is a pleasure. I definitely think it's something that's needed to have these type of conversations corporately. That a lot of times the information in our community doesn't pass from individual to individual, and so it's important for these kind of discussions to happen so that everybody can tap into their degree of success.
When we talk about making movies, all right, everybody assumes that it's big budget.
Right.
I've learned that if you have a group of people who have the same interests,
right,
with equipment, like you need to combine your resources maybe to get that first project off the ground that could potentially lead to more opportunities. How valuable is it for a person in your business to have like-minded people in your circle?
Look, it's invaluable. A lot of times in our particular circle, you know, there's egos and other things involved that keep people from collaborating without competition. That it keeps people from working together. And I'll relate that back to, you know, historically, if you go to a lot of black communities, large and small, you know, I tell them that you'll see 4 or 5 different barber shops, and most of those barbers came out of the same shop.
Right.
And so they're not really trying to capitalize or build their own success, but they're trying to capitalize on others' success. And so it's important to be able to take people with different skills and get together and talk about, you know, the skills they have and the things that you can do so that you can compile those things together and do bigger things and better things. And it's really important also for people to stay in their lane, stay in their degree of specialty. You know, it's funny sometimes in our industry, people will come in as a writer and end up being a director or something else outside of their skill set. And so it's important to be able to get in and define roles quickly and everybody kind of stay in their lane looking at big picture success.
Right. And the things that I love most is that, you know, with Gary's businesses, multiple businesses, with Melvin's businesses and with the businesses that I have, there's a lot of opportunities for everyone. I know in creating films, there's a lighting crew, there's a sound crew, there's a organizer on set, you know, there's a director, there's a writer, there's an actor, there's many different roles. And in your field, Gary, I'm sure there's the same thing, a lot of different types of roles. So you just got to be comfortable in what Melvin just said, comfortable in your ability to execute. When we come back, we'll finish the discussion of secrets to success. We'll talk more with Mr. Melvin Coleman about what it took for him to get started in creating films, creating plays, and we'll talk more with Mr. Gary Hartfield when we return. Y'all stay tuned in.
Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big stock, deep face Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you on the ship, you ain't a Buccaneer. 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big stock, deep face Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a Buccaneer. Hello? Touchdown, but just go. Who said Brady want to go? We don't like to talk, we show. Go to war with all my bros. Tailgate looking real swole. This ain't kinda we pose. Go bust, go bust, go. Nah, we don't wanna fight. Hit your heart like Mike, call him Devin White. Sue just got a psych on the quarterback. 13, 14 on the left and the right. Going deep, big catches just ahead of
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
Most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Great morning. Thank y'all for staying tuned in. You are mic'd up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. The topic of discussion today are the secrets to succeed. And I'm joined by Melvin Coleman and Gary Hartfield, two entrepreneurs here in the Tampa area, very successful men who knows what it takes to be successful. The people around you are very important. The resources to allocate are very important, but knowing how to do that is even more important. And coming up on March 6th, Gary Hartfield, along with other business leaders, are having an event where you yourself, our listeners, and will have had the opportunity to join. I think that registration is now closed, but I know a lot of great things are going to come out of this meeting March 6th. Gary, talk a little bit about what's going to happen at that leadership conference.
Thank you, Mike. So to preface for you, the conference is an integral part of the Tampa Organization of Black Affairs Tampa Leadership Institute. That institute was started last year. 2020 was our first cohort of about 13 aspiring African-American professionals here in the Tampa Bay area. This year, we have 18 individuals that were selected. These individuals represent an intellectual powerhouse. They represent the best and the brightest in our community. So what we're doing, session 2 will consist of both a leadership and a debate session. So the first part of the day will be the leadership session. We'll have a keynote speaker, Mr. Gary Vienne. He's the Chief Administrative Officer at Suncoast Credit Union. And then we'll go into a leadership panel. So similar to this conversation that we're having today, Michael Clayton will be facilitating, he'll be moderating a panel discussion on leadership. And we'll go into the different styles of leadership, like empowerment or coercive styles of leadership. Then we'll talk a little bit about what does leadership mean to you. Now, that could be a number of different things, because some leaders tend to be a little bit more passive,
right,
and maybe a little more soft-spoken. Other leaders, like maybe our coach on our football team, our baseball team, or whatever type of structured sport, they're a little bit more aggressive. They grab you by the face mask, and that's what you respond to, you know? So that type of conversation, that rich dialogue, that as we thought about who to best bring that out. So on the panel, there'll be Valerie Goddard. There'll be Dr. Ken Adwater, the president of the Hillsborough County Community College System. Sonia Little, former CFO for the city of Tampa, and others.
Right.
But who to best bring that conversation out and create a rich dialogue? We figured my brother, Michael Clayton, would be the best person to do that. So the second part of the day, real quickly, is a debate. So when we looked at how to best really bring this conversation to the forefront, we said, let's have a debate. As we talk about social justice issues in our community, let's talk about what white privilege means.
Right.
Let's talk about what diversity, equity, and inclusion in organization really mean? Is that needed? So in lieu of having those young men and women argue the affirmative, meaning that we, for the most part, know that they're already going to say these things are needed and white privilege does exist. Their job is just opposed to what they would normally think. So they got to argue the opposition. So they have to argue, research, and plan why their counterparts may believe that white privilege does not exist in America.
Wow.
They have to understand why an individual will say that diversity, equity, and inclusion should not be included in the workplace. So they'll be arguing the opposition, and then we identified two of our European American brothers and sisters here in the community, Ron Weaver, an attorney, accomplished attorney, and Tammy Bryant with Community Tampa Bay will actually argue the affirmative. They're going to argue that these things exist, and this is why they exist based on empirical, qualitative, and quantitative data.
Wow.
So these other individuals, our cohort, the African-American men and women, now have to understand why an individual will, think that white privilege doesn't exist, and have a broader base to draw from in terms of a conversation about these issues.
That's amazing, because I believe we need to take it there to another level, because these are the types of things that you don't really learn in grade school coming up.
Absolutely.
You got to have that right mentor in your life that loves you so much to talk about these secrets, of winning in life, and the certain resources and certain characteristics that you need to have to execute your job at hand. You talked about being a passive leader, and that's not always a bad thing. There are many different leadership styles. And the three main leadership styles is the autocratic leader. That's that coach that boss who's telling you what to do at all times. There's the laissez-faire types of leadership style, which is more laid back and passive, allowing people to do their job. And then there's the democratic leadership, which utilizes the team to lead, delegating different responsibilities. And as a business owner, you have to know the value of these three leadership styles, because everybody is different, and that's the biggest asset that you can have as an owner, is to know how to utilize your team. If you have a team full of incompetent people, the laissez-faire type of leadership and the democratic type of leadership style, that's not going to work. If you have a room of a team, not to say that you can't get a job done with incompetent people, all right? Because sometimes that's the case. And sometimes you need to be affirmative on the autocratic. I need to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, what time to show up. Those things are very important in a business, knowing the leadership styles. And we'll talk about that in the lesson. Now, talk a little bit about, where does that come into play in your field, Melvin?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like as a business owner, you use all three of those styles.
Yeah.
And it depends on who you're talking to and who you're dealing with. Sometimes when we're on a production shoot, and I tell people all the time is money, because we're paying for locations, or we have equipment rented, things like that, where you have to go in and be autocratic and be like, hey guys, get this done, show up on time, do what you need to do. And then there's other times, especially like sometimes when you're dealing with artists and actors, where you have to kind of soften your approach, and you have to rub the shoulders a little bit more, and you have to make sure their writer is fulfilled and things like that. So all those styles come into play, and to be honest with you, you can't get a full functional platform done without using all three.
Absolutely.
That you have to know when and who to use all three.
That's exactly a great example that I love to talk about this, because I love him so much, and the feeling is mutual. But my head coach, Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach in college history. I was a captain on his team, won a national championship, his first national championship. Coach Saban leaves LSU, and he goes to Miami. Now, Coach Saban's leadership style was an autocratic leadership style.
Okay.
He told you what to do. You did exactly what he said, and we won. Right. We were successful. But Coach Saban tried to go to Miami with grown men in the pros and tried to lead with an autocratic leadership style. When Coach Saban showed up, he wasn't getting paid more than the defensive ends.
Right.
When Coach Saban showed up, nobody in the pros really cared what you did at LSU and at Michigan State or wherever you were before then, because they really didn't know you, even though you were good at the time.
That's right.
So he took his autocratic leadership style, and Coach Saban said, I'm done with the NFL because I'm not changing.
Right.
And Coach Saban, a huge failure at Miami because he wasn't willing to change up his leadership style. Right. Whereas you take a guy like Tony Dungy, who is more democratic leadership style, letting his coaches coach, and they're different types. John Gruden, when they won it in 2002, he was a laissez-faire type of leadership. They had a team full of leaders: Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, Mike Allstott, John Lynch. They had all the greats. It didn't need autocratic leadership, didn't need democratic leadership. Let those great players go be great. Laissez-faire was the leadership style that John Gruden chose to choose.
Gotcha.
So it's very important, like Melvin just said, to access all types of these leadership styles. The important thing is knowing that these type leadership styles exist.
That's right. They absolutely do.
All right? I learned this in college. For those where education is not your thing and you didn't go to a school that taught you that doesn't mean, like, you still need to know this.
Absolutely.
You still need to know this.
Yep.
And I was a communications major, so if you were in the medical field or if you were in another major, maybe you didn't take those leadership classes.
Right.
But you still need to know this.
That's right.
You still need to know this. This is very important. We're talking about the secrets of success. And my good friend Melvin Coleman here, they had the INKWELL Productions and a big, huge facility, creating content on a big level. And when I first saw the facility, I was like, wow, I didn't know this even existed.
That's right.
Like it was a gold mine.
Right.
Everything that I wanted to do in life, create content, here it is, right here. And it's owned by a black man. All right, a black man who loves to serve the community. So now we're like-minded people. I want to help you. You help me. We can help each other.
That's right.
Talk about some of those roadblocks that got in your way when you and your brother first started, and how you were able to overcome those obstacles being in your field.
Well, I think probably in the very beginning, my brother and I, when we first started opening up facilities, we opened up a spot on Waters Avenue called Mocha Brown's Coffee Lounge. And we did, poetry nights and live music and things like that. And it was a nice, intimate setup. And it was funny because when you pulled up out front, it looked kind of like just a little strip mall convenience store setup, and the response was great because people would come inside and go, wow, wait a minute, I didn't know this was going on in here, that kind of thing. But the biggest thing we were going for was trying to create atmosphere.
Right.
And a lot of guys told us, hey, man, you're crazy. You can't create something like this and expect people to support it and that kind of thing. But, the thing that's always helped us and saved us has been being content creators. Content creators allows you to kind of go in and kind of pave your own way. Right. And so those were the kind of things that we were looking at, and then we just took that knowledge and expanded it, just thinking bigger. And a lot of people, I can't tell you how many people have told us, hey, y'all are crazy for doing this. This is not the market for us. But I feel like no market was the market for anything until somebody created it.
Absolutely.
And that's how we try and approach this.
Absolutely. What for right now, what's going on at INKWELL? What do y'all have coming up? Well, and is there anything else on the horizon?
Well, we have a new facility that we just opened up. And so the other facility was probably about 10,000 square feet. We had a live theater, that kind of thing in it. And the issue with things like that is it gets so vast that it's hard to stay focused on one thing.
Right.
So we put together this location that kind of separates the rental spot that we had from the production studio part, where we can really focus on doing talk shows and sitcoms and films and movies and things like that. Currently, right now, we're working on a project called Fear, and we've actually pulled in Camille McFadden, who was on Casey Undercover with Zendaya, as playing the lead in that particular project. And it has really taken off recently. Right at the very end of 2020, we made some roads in Atlanta and kind of opened up a little satellite location up there just to do casting and stuff, because you really need like-minded people to do these kind of things.
Listen, y'all stay tuned. When we come back, we'll finish this discussion with Gary Hartfield and Melvin Coleman. We're talking about the secrets of success, giving you nuggets and knowledge so that you can apply it to your life. Y'all stay tuned. You're mic'd up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton.
Blood shots on me like a buccaneer. Diamonds on me shot, it cost a buccaneer. Big start defense buccaneer. Feel go good with the buccaneer. Want me shoot a cannon like a buccaneer.
Thinking politics? Tampa Bay Politics is on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. with Angela Birdsong. Tune in right here on In Touch Radio.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Great morning. Thank y'all for staying tuned in to Mic'd Up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. Today's topic of discussion are the secrets to succeed. And our guests today, Mr. Gary Hartfield and Mr. Melvin Coleman, two prominent figures in our community doing big things. I have a question for both of you, and I want you to tell me what you think about this. It's something that I've learned and maybe something that people can think about. And I call it like the 7-year approach. And you can tell me how it's been impacted in your businesses that you've already created. When I started off, I feel like everything needs about 7 years to kind of develop, to fully develop. A lot of people go through tough times the first 2-3 years, and they can't see over the hill. They can't see over the hump. But if they were in the right mental disposition, planning and preparing for a 7-year approach, they would be they'll have a stronger foundation to face those obstacles when they come, knowing like when you're prepared to get over that hump and you plan to get over that hump, it's better than just when that hump hits you and you haven't planned for it.
Absolutely.
And I say that because I myself have taken away opportunities for myself by, I was in television, working in TV. All right. And I kind of threw away the 7-year approach. I was frustrated after 3 years, wasn't making enough money. I was seeing how am I going to pay for these things, maintain my lifestyle, only making $40,000, $60,000 a year in local television. Now, I wanted to be there. All right. I was honored to be there and and great things came from me being there. But for some reason, I wanted to push and make more money. I felt that I could do it on my own, okay? So I left the big networks. And boy, was I in for a rude awakening of everything it took to facilitate running a show like I was getting paid to run. Now, I had to invest 60, 70 grand to have a TV show opposed to getting paid 60 grand. And hosting a show. Now, I had to clock in, and I had to be at work, and I had to clock out, and I had a boss, all right? And I didn't like that too much because I felt comfortable, I was going to be myself, and the only thing that was required for me, I will work for your TV station if I'm able to be myself, and if I'm not good enough, then I don't have to work here. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to do my own thing, and I left after 3 years. And I look back, and I say, man, if I just would have hung in there. Now, great things have happened. I got a radio show, got my own TV show, was able to start my roof cleaning business because I don't have to work. And the reality is, man, the last 2 months, this Green Tiger, man, we've clocked in over 25 grand a month. Whereas I only make that in a year.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, man, I need to, I'm happy right now.
Right.
But I also have I keep a lot of stock in the 7-year approach because I feel like things reveal themselves in 7 years. Something about that number.
Right.
But just kind of, can y'all relate to opening y'all business and being open for 7 years, the thing that you've learned and say, man, at one point I probably would have shut this down early, but after having it 7 years, I'm glad I kept it running. Do y'all have an experience? Gary, you first.
Okay, so I would say definitely who outlined it best, and it's almost scientific. And I would ask that your listeners go and get the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
So in the book, he speaks to 10 years, 10,000 hours. So in my experience, as I grew and developed businesses, right about that 7-year approach is when you start to stabilize, start to make money, and you start to become a subject matter expert. So not only in terms of being able to generate revenue, but to help other people who are coming into the industry. Now you kind of learned through this process over the last 7 years, there's been a maturation process where you picked up enough wisdom where you could help people not only get to where it is they're trying to get to, but now you understand for yourself, you have systems in place with relationships with banks. You got relationships with those important type of industries that you need to touch to move your organization to the next level.
Right.
So you may have developed an organization, you're generating $25,000 gross every month, and that's looking like, like $500,000 a year. So now at that 7-year mark, you're saying, okay, I'm at $500,000 a year. Do I want to continue to grow in Tampa Bay? This relationship that I have with the Bank of Tampa, I need to scale this. So this $500,000, I need to parlay into 10 million. So I think at the 7-year mark is where you start to understand that you actually got it.
Right.
And at the 10-year mark is when you become an expert.
Yeah.
And based on what he has, and this, I believe it's a scientific approach, 10,000 hours or 10 years. And that's where the outliers are defined. And he actually he demonstrates that example not only in business but with Bill Gates, with the Steve Jobs, with professional athletes like yourself, Mike, and with artists. The same thing. You truly come into your own in about 10 years or 10,000 hours.
Who's the Outliers written by?
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell. And it's crazy because my business alone, we started 8 years ago, all right, in Baton Rouge. And it took all 8 years for us it took about 4 years for us to build our brand. And once we built it in 4 years, another 3 years for us to start taking off. So for those first 4 years, we're pumping out 20,000 flyers trying to get business every single month. 20,000, 20, clipping, got a strategy. Well, for the past 3 years, I haven't thrown a flyer in Baton Rouge. Because now it's all about your work and repeat customers and establishing your business of doing a great job and people recommending you through because they've experienced something with you. But after 7 years, I look back and I say, man, now it's time to open up a location in Tampa. Because we're established. I wouldn't have opened up a location. I didn't open up a location in Tampa 7 years ago. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Right.
And I say, man, it's about 7 years. And that's crazy. I just weep. I cry sometimes when I'm going through things. And I get to read my Bible and I'll read a story that just hits home and it's something that I experienced. I never read it in the Bible before. And it's like, I felt exactly what the word is trying to teach me. I just cry. But it's just amazing how you can go through life. That lets you know that life can teach you all things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Life will teach you all things if you're willing to stay in tune with life.
That's right.
All right?
That's right.
If you're in tune with the lessons, I'm telling you, you can learn something every day.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to teach you. And you don't have to be an intellect. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to learn these very valuable lessons. You just got to be willing to, like I told you, if you're not a boss or a leader, you got to be willing to listen, learn, and labor. You just got to put in the work.
Amen. Preach on, preacher.
You know it. 7-year approach.
Well, 7 in the Bible, 7 is a number of completion.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny, since we're talking about Bible and Scripture, I was at a film festival. My brother and I were there, and we were doing some great things at this festival. And one of the speakers at the festival was T.D. Jakes. And he was, talking, but what I referenced was he didn't use any scriptures or anything like that. But one of the things that really stuck with me was he said, you always pay for education. And the way he broke it down is he said, whether you go to school, whether you learn from making mistakes, or whether or not you really invest time in what you're doing, it's all education and it all costs you something.
Yes.
And so I had to kind of reset myself, and my brother and I, we talked and we said, hey, we have to figure out where these learning lessons are and maximize them to its very fullest potential. And, you know, it takes time to do that. When you jump in and out of a business and you don't build branding with a customer who knows what your work ethic is and who knows what type of product you put together, when you start over, you legitimately start over.
All right.
And so it's important to be, you know, keep a branding out there and people understand, and keep your work ethic clean, and have a good business plan so you can communicate that plan with people. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, like, I do play rescues where somebody's struggling putting their play together, and they'll call me, not for the sake of the standpoint that I'm this terrific writer, but they know, hey, Mel can put a show together.
Yeah.
You know, and it's from time and track record of jumping in and doing those different type of things. And a lot of it is just planning, work ethic, project management, time.
As we come to a close, I'm gonna read off some lists, some things that some secrets that I came up with, and if it hits one of y'all, just raise your hand, and I want you to speak on it very quickly. How much time we got left? We got 4 minutes left, so we're gonna make this quick.
All right.
And I'll kind of start over. Earlier in the show, I said if you plan to fail. You plan to fail if you fail to plan. All right. Understanding the common workplace protocol is if you're not a boss or a leader, you need to master listening, learning, and laboring. All right. Go to bed early. Wake up early. Write your ideas down. Absolutely. Invest in yourself. You have to be well spoken. Okay. And more than just well spoken is, I took a class in college that taught me the default look. So I'm a football player, I'm angry, and every time I talk to somebody passionately, I got this ugly look on my face, and I'm scaring people.
Right.
Muhammad Ali perfected it.
He did.
All right? And I had to learn my default look. My default look was ugly, DJ A&A. I wouldn't open it. I mean, you got to know, especially if you're a big black brother, you got to know how to use what you got to get what you want. So someone taught me how to talk with a smile on my face.
That's right.
Somebody said that, you know, your eyes are the windows to your soul, to look a person in their eyes and smile. Michael, you got beautiful teeth. Like, the room just lights up when you smile. So why would I not, when I'm talking to people, engage them with my very best and just talking with a smile on my face? It's about being well spoken, not just how you articulate, but also what it looks like.
And you got to be inviting.
You got to be inviting. And when you are inviting, guess what? That is a secret. That is a secret. Now, I had a guy on my work site, and I was hesitant about talking about this, but I'm going to talk about it because I think it needs to be talked about. I'm not saying I was right, but it needs to be talked about.
Okay.
Had an employee with goals in his mouth.
Okay.
Removable goals. And I said, listen, son, if you could take that out, you don't show up on my work site with that in your mouth.
Okay.
And I said, if it's permanent, then I could deal with it.
Okay.
But if you could take it out, I don't want that on my, because first of all, you're not well spoken. Okay. So I'm trying to help you out and give you an opportunity so I can teach you a lot of things so you can win in life. And that's not, now some people say, well, you discriminate. Well, yes, I was, because this is a business. This is my business that I know I got to work with white people mainly and clean their businesses. And when black people come to your property, I know that don't make everybody feel comfortable.
Exactly.
So the ways of the world have taught me to play the game.
Right.
If I want to win. Now, I had a conversation with him. You think he didn't even take them goals out.
Okay.
Left him in. He's no longer working with me this week. And he probably won't work with me again.
Okay.
Because simply, like, this is common sense stuff. He's thinking like a worker. I need you to think like a boss. That's another secret. It doesn't matter where you are. It's okay to think like a boss.
Right. I had a conversation with an individual about something like this where they were so focused on their own personal branding and being themselves that they couldn't do the things I needed them to do as an actor or as a performer. And I used to tell them, if your art is for you, you can do it wherever you want, and it doesn't matter. You can just go do that.
Right.
But when you are performing for someone else, you're creating something for someone else.
Yeah.
And you can't just be you.
Well, listen, this has been awesome. You know, a lot of times once we get started, I feel like we don't have enough time. An hour is not enough time. So hopefully you men will join me at another topic of discussion. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all of our listeners. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next Monday. DJ ANA, thank you for your love and support as well, my dear. We'll see y'all next Monday.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a Buccaneer.